Welcome to EUphoria Season 3, Episode 8. We are available on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify. Of course, if you are on YouTube, there are timestamps in the description made by the lovely Phil Choi, our wonderful producer, who puts a lot of detail into those timestamps just to make sure that you guys can hear exactly what you want to hear. Yamato Dinner Karaoke, it's closer than ever. It's going to happen, I promise, I swear. Jon Snow. We have a Jon Snow costume for him. We're taking him to a nice steakhouse full of very well-dressed...
What happened to Woody?
I don't know. We ended up with Jon Snow.
We can afford Jon Snow, but we can't afford
and
Woody.
We needed, well, the thing was, we didn't think they'd let Woody into a steakhouse. We didn't think they'd stop Jon Snow, though. So we're figuring it out. Frost Quickshot Tattoo Bet is happening. Upset North Scare and Pie to the Face was delayed because I was sick. And Attila will also have to sing a love song for Upset in this most recent set of bets. And for this episode, believe it or not, we have a bet planned ahead of time, which we will share for you later. I know it's a first. And our very special guests today, the support and jungle of G2 Esports, Mickey and Jankos. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Hello, everyone.
You always, it feels like you're always holding back a laugh.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I was just listening to the Jon Snow and like the Yamato and stuff, and it was pretty funny because I didn't actually watch the last week's episode. And yeah.
You telling me you don't watch every single week?
I do watch when I see that it's worth watching. Like if I'm interested in like people's opinions.
Oh no, you flamed! You tried so hard. You said you were going to try to avoid flaming.
He literally came in, he was like, I'm not going to flame anyone, and we're going to be all really nice. You made it 30 seconds.
We hit him with the Fox News right now.
Okay.
Jankos does not care what anyone from Vitality has to say. More at 7.
Okay, I did watch some of it, but I just didn't see the bet. Let's assume that I watched the whole episode except for the bet.
Okay. That's definitely fair.
Saved it.
Well, it's good to have you guys here today. How's everything going in the G2 camp before we get into the thick of it?
Well, everything's going pretty well, I think, even though we do have 2 losses. And even after we lost the first game, after it was 9-0, looking back to last year, after we were 9-0 as well in Misfits, after we lost 1 game, it was like night and day. It was a lot of different team atmosphere, because in G2, everyone like didn't really take it too hard, so it was pretty easy to like just move on with it. So yeah.
I mean, it just doesn't hurt us that much because we are still, up there, and we'll probably finish as the first seed, hopefully, if we don't go 0-4 the next 2 weeks, and we are not planning to go 0-4. And the match against SK was a slip up for us. We were 8K or 10K ahead, and we lost a game, and it's kind of unbelievable. But we take it way less serious than the loss against Origin because, well, against Origin we were like 8-0 or something, or 9-0, I don't remember. But all I know is that back then we were aiming for the perfect split. And now since we already lost 1 game, then losing the game against SK is just a process of learning, Nothing really changed. We are still aiming to win the playoffs and not win the regular split. And it's just a defeat, and we have to learn from it.
So what did you learn?
Yeah, I was going to say, what did you learn?
Well, we learned that Jinx is quite strong on 6 items.
Ooh, that's a good lesson.
And we learned that we really can't end when it's 5v4 in enemy base.
And we'll have much cooldowns on our side.
And yeah, like we basically learned that we can't always end the game.
Yeah.
Like, and we should sometimes give up objectives when we are not all 5 and enemies are all 5, for example.
Yeah.
And that we should play more macro. So you could expect G2 to have a little bit longer games from now on, because instead of trying to end the game fast and trying to boost our stats, we will try to actually win the game, like proper way, Because I think against SK we made a mistake of trying to end early, and it really did bite us in the end. So we have to take it slow and just play like slower and more calm on stage, hopefully.
I always, you sound very much like a mom in that moment, Froskurinn. So you're like, what did you learn, young man? What did you take away from this? Tell me more. You must have learned something. But I mean, good to hear.
There's always like so I mean, you guys know because you guys have your game rooms next to the casters rooms, but there's like what the casters say on the desk and on the analyst desk, and what the casters say back in the caster room as we're watching people play. And I think that game there was a lot of, what are you doing?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
it was
mean,
kind of same.
yeah, mistakes were made for sure in that game.
Well, I mean, you've lost 2 now, and clearly every team is ready to defeat you now because you've lost 2 games and you're officially, you're falling down. I think is what people are.
Yeah,
really
that's what the
saying.
league's
The
thinking.
weaknesses,
We got 'em.
The weaknesses are showing through, boys. But let's talk about some of the other teams. We currently have a 4-way tie for 5th place: Misfits, Fnatic, SK, and Schalke. Playoffs race is super tight this year. I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are on the teams. I talked to Yamato and Attila a little bit about it this last week, but is there anyone you think is just like doomed? No way they make it into playoffs at this point, other than Excel and Rogue, who we'll get to talk about in a second.
You get to pick between Splice, Misfits, Fnatic, and Schalke. Who's not making it?
Well, I would pick Misfits.
And
But-
not SK? Why is Splice
Nah.
on the list, but SK isn't on the list?
I think SK has a higher chance of making it. I think they're
To be fair,
much better
we
as a
counted them
team
out.
together. I think another team that probably won't make it. I would have to choose between either Schalke or Splice. I think either of them will not make it. But what do you think, Jankos?
I would assume it's Misfits and Schalke. Schalke, I think they are on a 0-5 or 0-6 losing streak. I'm not quite sure, but I know that ever since like almost 1 month, they are just losing every single game they play. And I think they broke down mentally because after losing 6 games in a row, you can't possibly think that they are a good team. And I think that's what holds them back a little bit as well right now, that they don't believe in themselves and they made really weird mistakes and they are making a lot of 50-50 plays that don't go their way and they throw the game. And for me, it doesn't seem like they're a bad team or bad players, but there's just like something that stops them from winning games. And Misfits, kind of similar. They are just not winning whole a lot lately. And it seems like maybe the players are too like big ego. I mean, I don't want to like insult anyone because I don't know their players and maybe they actually don't have ego, but for some reason you have 5 strong players on paper and Misfits is not a strong team, so something has to be wrong like in between the teammates or just overall with the team.
As someone who's looked into strength of schedule quite
quite a bit.
intensively, I do agree that I think a lot of people will grab like Misfits, but Misfits have one of the easiest schedules left because I think they get to go through both the bottom tier teams. They just faced Excel, and even though that was a bit of a nail biter, but they also hold the head-to-head against Origin, SK, and they also have 1 victory already over Fnatic, so they could theoretically hold the head-to-head over Fnatic. So I actually think the only way that Misfits get thrown out of playoffs just because of their strong start is simply if they just repeatedly lose games, which totally possible. But
They didn't give Rogue their first win, so I think give them their second.
That's true.
Wait, just to be clear though, Misfits' strength schedule is Fnatic, Schalke, Splice,
No,
G2.
but you had to back it up. You know what I mean? Like they had
Yes, they had okay, there you go. Okay.
they had like Rogue and Excel when I first started. I was like, okay, so they got the bottom 2 teams, and then it was like, oh no.
Oh, those right. Oh, it's brutal.
But they hold strength of schedule, which is why I think that unless Misfits just continuously lose all of their games, but with Schalke also losing, that I'm actually really on the side of like Schalke and SK probably won't make it into playoffs. And I think Misfits will like scrape in.
Yeah, there's a lot of scraping in. I don't feel like anyone in the 5 or 6 spot is like, we've comfortably made playoffs this year. Like, I feel like there's no way it's going to be close. Jankos, you used to play with Odo. He obviously now plays with Schalke. You guys have lost games together. Is he the kind of player that you think can, like, rally and come back and, like, bring the team's mental together? I don't want you to, like, come out here and flame people, but I'm just curious, in your experience, is this a strength he has? Is he the kind of guy that can rise up and be the carry for the team?
Well, with all the respect to Odoamne, I don't think he's type of a leader kind of person. So I don't believe he could rally the team right now if he didn't do it before. I think he's a strong player, and if he's in a good team, he will actually perform really well. And that is why I think he looked really strong in the first few weeks, because the team as a whole worked really well. But to me, it feels like Schalke overall doesn't have a leader, It's not even about Odoamne. It's just about anyone from their team. I think the only like leader kind of person that is trying to step up is maybe Memento, but lately he has not been performing really well. So maybe he takes too much responsibility on himself, and the other person could be upset, but he's just an AD carry, so he can't really he can really carry the game from bot lane, the early lane, or like in the early game overall, you know, especially that he plays a lot of Ezreal, which he is really amazing at, but like you can't really expect Ezreal to carry the whole map, you know. And yeah, they are doomed.
They're
No, okay,
doomed.
they are not doomed.
they're-
Okay, okay. I know. I mean, okay, they really went 0-6, and I like their players, by the way. I like, personally, I like everyone at
Let's
Schalke.
take the names, the people out of it. Is the team Schalke? No
players.
flame intended towards the players. Is that team doomed? Let's just put it that way. Because I don't think you dislike any of the players. I don't think you're trying to flame anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I just believe that it's very hard to come back from what happened to them in the last couple of weeks. And I think all the teams are trying, and it's not even about them not trying hard enough, but you have to understand that everyone is trying their hardest right now because it's just before playoffs. And, you know, right now I'm in a position to look at all of them and kind of think about it. But like, let's say last year, I was like struggling to get to playoffs as well, you know?
Same.
So, yeah, exactly. So I know how it feels, and it's not easy right now. And when all the teams are like trying really hard to be there, and let's say Splice has one more win over like the top 5 teams, that's already a huge advantage because there's only 4 games left. And that is why I don't think Schalke will make it in, because they are just, you know, they were 7-1 or 6-1, and now they are like kind of
Free
even.
falling. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just think they will not make it.
Mickey, not to go back to the dark times, but you are familiar with not making playoffs.
That's correct.
Last spring, you and your boy Misfits. I'm curious. Hussein's back. Some games team looks great. Some games teams looks terrible. What are your thoughts on Misfits right now?
Well, I'm not sure if did look great in the past few weeks. I think they only looked great in the first 2 weeks. I think now it's kind of how I expected it to go, because I think none of their players are like some insane 1v9 machines, like Caps, for example. Or basically anyone.
Well, he didn't win the game with Silas, did he? I mean, he went
That's
top
right.
lane and they just ended the game.
Okay,
So
but-
I'm just putting that out there, you know.
And yeah, we do have 2 losses on Silas. So yeah,
Nice.
there's that. Silas is useless. Okay.
G2 Silas.
But yeah, I think Misfits might have the same happen to them that happened last year, which is not making playoffs. But they were kind of close last year. But I think they're going to be close this year as well, but probably won't make it. But yeah, I think they can't really pick it up from knowing some people in Misfits and hearing stuff from other people that joined Misfits. I don't think they can actually pick it back up and go in playoffs.
It honestly seems to me like we have a lot of we have like some teams. Froskurinn, I'm curious what you think about this. Like, there's the teams who are like rising up, which right now is like, you can argue that like Vitality is somewhere in the middle. Yeah, I don't want to like be too critical of them because obviously like Seiken coming in this week kind of throws a wrench in their plans. But like OG is definitely rising up. Fnatic are also rising up, and I just feel like there's all these other teams that were like in the top 6 that are just free falling. That are just hard free falling.
I
Like,
think it's the idea of like synergy. Like Schalke is a perfect example. Schalke came in and they had like so much synergy that no one really expected. Like Ignar plugged right in with Memento. Abadage was on Lissandra, which is just a champion that got free priority. So you don't necessarily have to have so much experience in how you play the map and play the game. And so I think that there were kind of a lot of coverings for these teams. And now as you know, like spring split goes on and the other teams are finally finding the synergy, the meta has shifted, you need to have a wider champion pool than what you started with. Suddenly you're starting to see like the cracks of, okay, what teams actually have players that understand how to play fundamental League of Legends, and then like, you know, the little twist on top of it, like Origin, and what teams have now, we're just like banking on their synergy or maybe banking on like some key players. Like I think Schalke, you know, when it was so bot lane centric for so long in LEC, had someone like Upset. And then Ezreal was super powerful, which now his power has been diluted a little bit, not necessarily through him directly, but through other champions rising up. So I think it's just like a combination of things. And now we get to see that they have a rookie mid laner who looks very lost on the map, and Memento doesn't seem to know how to lead the team, and that's what it looks like.
Well, that's very harsh, but I agree. I mean, that's just how it looks. And they play mid jungle, but they don't really like. They are misplaying a lot, and they are taking a lot of 2v2 fights that they lose. And sometimes you just use stopwatch when they are about to use Predator, and it happens, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that if they would play more through bot lane and trust more in Upset and Ignar, maybe, you know, just put Abadage on Lissandra like you used to, and just play through bot lane, you know, try to snowball with upset, and if he's the start of the team, because I'm sure that Odoamne can do well on top lane, you know, like he will be fine being alone. So I'm just thinking maybe you should just like put all your money in upset and hope that he can carry.
All right. Never mind. I was gonna say we could talk a little bit about Rogue and Excel, but they're locked out of playoffs. We'll see them next year or next season when they come back. We'll keep you guys informed how they're doing on broadcast. I know that they're swapping some stuff around in rosters. We'll see how Mystique does this week in place of Kasing. But I want to talk more about G2. Now, your upcoming opponents, Splice, Vitality, Fnatic, and Misfits. Who are you guys going to lose to next? What's your next lesson? Is it going to be like maybe we shouldn't draft 3 losing lanes? Is it going to be like maybe we shouldn't try to 2v5? Like, who of these 4 opponents, Splice, Vitality, Fnatic, and Misfits, is like the most threatening at this point?
Well, hopefully it's not Fnatic, because we really don't want to lose against Fnatic. So we will try our hardest to win against Fnatic. And against the other ones, it doesn't really matter that much. Like, I mean, still, I think we can beat everyone from those 4 teams. I mean, we are still a really strong team. And I honestly don't know how hard we have to misplay or how bad of a draft we have to make to lose against those teams, because I think we have like a pretty good players that can deal with bad situations. But, you know, against Origin, for example, we had a really shit draft, you know, it was like really shit. Sorry, Grabs. It was really bad. And against...
Just put the Casio bot next time, for the love of God.
Yeah, that was the initial plan.
Yeah,
there was some miscommunication in the draft.
Yeah, actually, it was not only about Grabs. That was like,
we all take the blame for that.
We all take the blame. And then against SK, we all take the blame as well, because we just threw the game and, you know, sucks. But I think against, for example, Splice, it feels like last time we lost early game, like really hard against them. Like they were ahead a lot. Like me and Rasmus were like kind of running down, but we still won the game. So I don't know how can we lose to Splice being ahead in the early game, and we are not planning to get behind, because I think our early game has been like better lately. And when it comes to Vitality, last time we played against them, they did draft for the early game and they lost the early game. So I expect the game against Vitality to be much closer than it was last time. I think this team is like pretty good, but I still think their macro is not that good when they are not snowballing, you know. Nothing really changed from last year. That's how I see this team. So I don't think we can lose against Vitality. And then, yeah, Misfits are just struggling overall. So if we don't give Hansama Draven, they probably can't win. And then the last team is Fnatic, which we really, really don't want to lose against. So either the pressure is on us and we lose because of the pressure, because we are like choking, because we really want to win, or, well, maybe we don't win in like 20 minutes, but we can still like clinch it somehow, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think the closest that any team can get to beat us is probably Fnatic. I think they look the best out of the 4 teams that we play. And I think they can kind of match us, kind of. But yeah, I guess we'll see.
You have a lot of faith in that Nemesis versus Caps matchup. You think Caps, what was it last time? Very personal. It was a very, very personal 1v1 mid matchup.
It was personal against all the players. He always wanted all the kills. So I was like, let me kill this guy.
I'm excited. That matchup's actually super hype. I don't think it's it's your final matchup. It's your second to last. Misfits is going to be your last opponent. But do you feel like now you've lost 2 games? Are you finally getting challenged? Because we saw the SK game. It says you threw a 10K gold lead. That felt like that was on you. Origin game, you said you got this bad draft. And obviously you did get smashed.
Okay, now here's how we're going to approach this. I'm going to tell you guys what I think G2's biggest problem is, or one of the biggest weaknesses, and then you're going to tell me that I'm wrong, okay?
Okay, hey, Mickey, we can learn now, so let's listen.
When I watch G2, you guys remind me so much of Edward Gaming, where you have really strong individual pieces. And you guys have been told this all the time, that your macro is shit, they don't know what they're doing, they just brute force, which I don't think is entirely true. But I do think that you guys manufacture leads when you fall behind. Your strategy is to like fight or skirmish. I think you guys love to skirmish because you feel that you are always stronger in 2v2s or 3v3s. And my concern is that works in the LEC because you guys understand how priority works and you will have better players most of the time when they approach these fights. But on the international stage, if you guys go to MSI, let's say you fall 2k behind Griffin, and then you have rotation priority off of Caps. Caps calls for a skirmish, and you guys rotate over there, and you just get smashed, then that's going to snowball really far out of control. So my concern is that you guys go back to skirmishing and to fighting or to picks to try to catch up in the game, as opposed to trading objectives and trying to stall out. I don't think I've ever seen a G2 game where the plan was stall out for X item and then look for fight.
I do agree.
No, you're not supposed to.
Wrong.
I mean, to say wrong.
Yes,
Okay, I just think that we don't always get lead in scrims, and when we don't, that is like the thing we are trying to learn, you know? Like instead of fighting 24/7, we are trying to trade objectives and play slow game. And, you know, not a lot of teams pushed us so far to actually play that style in LEC. And if, you know, we go to MSI, let's say, because somehow we win the spring split. And
Somehow, miraculously.
Yeah, and we do get smashed by Griffin or any other team. Hopefully not in Liquid, because that's an A. So, but anyway, if we do get smashed, then I just think it's a process of learning as well. You know, I mean, we are still kind of a new team. Like we all have, we have a lot of experienced players, but you know, we are playing with each other for like 4 months now, and even if we lose MSI and we bring embarrassment to Europe, which we hopefully won't, then there's still Worlds. And after getting beat up by the Griffin and any other team, we will actually like, you know, have a lot of more feedback on what the meta was or is, or how should we approach the game.
My tinfoil hat theory is that, because people, it was the play-in teams from Worlds, Cloud9 and G2 that made it like the farthest versus the teams that joined at the group stage. And to me, that makes a lot of sense because you have that much longer where you're playing with those scrim sets like in a different location, which was Korea, so you guys had access to the solo queue, that if you take the top players in the world, you give them actual time to play on those type of practice environments that you guys will learn just as quickly. But the problem is like for MSI, because it's so much a shorter event that you don't get the same time where you're like a month away in Worlds, getting that scrim time, getting that solo queue time. So you have a shorter period where you can hit that ceiling, and that's why I'm almost afraid. Like I feel like if we sent G2 to Worlds right now, that by the end of it you guys would be fine, but you're starting at such a disadvantage on a shorter time gap going to MSI versus, you know, teams like Griffin or Invictus Gaming, if they go, who have been sitting on the Korean solo queue server and those types of scrims for 10 weeks now.
But then at the same time, I have to ask you this: if we don't send G2, what team are you so confident in?
Oh no, we should only send G2 at this point.
You see, so yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I want to touch a bit on the point where, like, if we get behind, I think we're pretty good at seeing opportunities. And like, I think the last year the buzzword was the X factor.
The X factor. I remember the X factor. We used that one a lot. Me and Deficio enjoyed that one.
So I think a lot of people in G2 have the X factor, and we can like, I think we have really good eyes for like seeing the right opportunity to like punish enemies' mistakes. And I think in EU a lot of people do a lot of mistakes. So that's why it seems like as if we just like pick a lot of fights and like skirmish a lot. I think it's just because people are caught out of position, and I think we have good eyes for like seeing those opportunities. And even if we were to play, even if we were to play Griffin, we don't even know how good Griffin is because we don't really know how good LCK teams are compared to EU teams. So
how dare you say that? LCK is the best region in the world. I tell you this because Papa Smithy told me so, and that's all the information I need because he's the best caster in the world.
Well, I guess we'll see at MSI.
And I do want to then like reemphasize that just because I think that you guys fight a lot to get back, like there is a lot of macro that does go into setting up fights. So I do not want the Reddit community to be like, G2 are a stupid team because all they do is fight. You can fight intelligently. That's why the LPL won Worlds.
Yeah.
I know. I would really love
well,
for this
I'm
to be
pretty
the
sure
next
that
Froskurinn meme.
I mean, LPL won Worlds also because they had Rookie and the Shy and some other players that were really insane. And they just stomped every single position that there was. So that was the other reason, you know. I still remember playing against IG and believing we can win, but my hopes like actually went down fast, you know, as we played.
But you guys lasted longer than Fnatic.
Really?
Yeah, props for that one.
Yeah.
Like whole 5 minutes? Or?
No, you guys actually did last longer than Fnatic. When Fnatic lost to IG, it was the fastest world championship we've ever had.
You know, I didn't watch that one because I
He took a
believe,
nap. You woke up. It's over.
like, I believe that Fnatic can win. You know, like I honestly believed it because I honestly believed that we could do it as well. But then I heard Fnatic got really smashed as well. You know, but I mean, they probably didn't give the shy Jays, right? They didn't do it. Yeah, and they still got smashed. I mean, IG was just really insane last Worlds. Like, honestly, they played really well around jungle, and it's not even about only their solo laners, but yeah, like you said, their macro game and how they choose fights and how they actually snowball their lead. So, I mean, yeah, they are really, really insane. And KT actually won 2 games against them somehow.
This G2 now versus the IG of that World Finals. Could you beat them?
I think we'll beat them.
I think. Okay, I don't know if we would beat them, but we could beat them. Like, it would be more. Okay, it would be more possible than back then for sure, because I feel like we are a way stronger team, and we have way better grasp of the meta as well than we had back then. I mean, at least, yeah, the Jace really hurts me because in the 3rd game that Jace was banned, we actually did well in the early game, but then maybe we already broke down mentally, and instead of somebody in the game, we threw it back to IG. So I think it would be way more possible right now than it was back then.
It's like my favorite type of bullshit question because there's just like no way to answer.
There's
this.
absolutely no way.
it's
It's like when
really
people really want to compare Griffin and G2 together. They're like, look at how good Griffin are. They're smashing LCK. It's like, what does that mean?
But I was
That's like when people hype up the Flash Wolves because they're like 28-0 in the LMS. Like, that's the most top-heavy region in the world. How can you possibly use that as an argument?
But I do think it's a fun comparison because I think there's a lot of correlations in terms of like the player strength. I think Rookie has, or at the time, had a higher ceiling than Caps, but it's close. I think Ning is hyper inconsistent, showed up in the World Final, didn't show up in group stage, and Jankos is having, I'm going to pretend that Jankos isn't here, like having the best split that he's had in a while.
Really, yeah, really good. Some really questionable Elise tower dives.
Did I? Oh,
Yeah, the
okay,
one
it
where
was
you
my
went
game.
When you
into the
did
air
what
and
got
then
the
came
aggro
down
and
and
then you
had tower
flashed
aggro.
out.
Yeah, okay, that's a tough one. We take it as a team.
Against Excel?
Was it Excel? I don't remember.
You were diving, was it?
Galio. I was Galio.
It was top lane.
It was top lane. It was you.
It was, yes.
And then it was
against
Jarvan
Excel.
Elise top. Wonder had tower aggro. You repelled up and then
Oh, that
came,
was
And
against
came
Misfits.
down and
That
got
was Misfits.
tower aggro and had to flash.
Actually, I played that really horrible.
I don't remember. Okay, I played this something really bad, didn't I?
I mean, you lived, I think.
Wait, what? But did we kill Sauce?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, you
But
did.
you had to burn flash.
Yeah.
You had to burn
I did-
flash
I have
when
to
you
burn
didn't.
Yeah, you killed him, but you had to burn your flash, and you just repelled for no reason.
Yeah.
You repelled for no reason. You came down, had
Well,
tower aggro,
I
had
really
to
want to
flash.
rewatch it now because now it's like everyone said I'm like it was really, really boosted and I don't remember, so I really need to.
This
see
is
it.
what you'll watch, and you'll be like, "Oh, I thought I had tower aggro, but Wonder had it," and that will be the end of the story.
Oh, okay. Well, probably happened, yeah.
Yeah.
Focusing back on the LEC playoffs, obviously right around the corner.
Wait, I wasn't done.
You're not done. You wanna go
No,
back?
okay.
I thought we were just flaming.
So I think Jankos is more consistent than Ning was.
Got it.
Caps and Rookie are close, but I would have given it to Rookie. I actually think that Mickey and Perks are better than Baolan and Jackie
I
Love.
do agree with that.
Jackie Love had a great, like Baolan and Jackie Love ramped up. You probably saw them at their best form, but everyone also needs to remember in group stage when they were flashing forward and feeding, that also happened a lot. Speaking of flashing forward and feeding, that SK game. And Wonder and
Wait,
the
who are you
Shy.
flaming there? I couldn't tell.
I thought
I
it
was
was one
flaming
of
the
us.
bot lane.
Okay.
But Mickey wasn't really the problem.
That's right.
Oh, well,
Called out.
I could have actually won the game if IQ flashed on Jinx when she was chasing us, but
You mean on the inhib fight?
yeah, when she like chased us off, and yeah, my Q flash was ready, but yeah.
And I'm still gonna give the Shy over Wonder right now. Although I did like that Wonder was playing Camille at the World Championship, and like no one else was, or at least not in the top lane as much. There we
So-
go. Now I'm done.
A 5-game series for Froskurinn if you had to predict our fake, totally made up series.
Clearly G2.
3-0.
There you go. And you said that not under duress. Not at all, dear fans. Okay, so back to the LEC now. So obviously best of one is, I don't know. Best of one is weird. Best of one is a format, right? Like, it's good for regular season.
What do you mean? Best of One's the greatest format ever.
Best of one is great because it leaves questions. That was the problem with best of three. If one team was completely dominant in best of three, you're like, well, they're gonna destroy in best of five because guess what? It's the same thing. I like best of one because it leaves questions to be answered. And
I
now,
like best of one because it's easy to schedule around.
also very easy to schedule. Yes, and we don't have to watch like 3 hours of really bad matchups, which
I think
That-
that is
no.
the most important.
That's the big thing. Everyone's like, I wish it was best of 3. I'm like, do you really want a best
yeah,
of
that's
3
the thing.
between
They're like,
Excel
guys,
and
I
Rogue?
want a Fnatic G2 best of 3 twice. Are you kidding me? I'm like, but do you want a Rogue Excel best of 3 twice?
I would love it.
I low key, actually, that game was pretty hype.
I remember Origin Rocket that went to 3 games, I think, and it was so hype. It was like 60-minute game, I think. It was so insane with Ziggs. I would love 3 games of that again.
I
fair-
think it was, what was it?
It was Origin Rocket.
2017 or something?
Yeah,
I do
yeah, it
remember
was.
watching it as well because I think we were about to play after them and the games were like insanely long and they're like just hugging towers for 60 minutes. It was, it was really
This was
crazy.
like 5 ZZ Rot days where it was just like everyone had a ZZ Rot. Oh my god. Oh.
Well, now the games are kind of short. So even if we would have BO3s, I would not assume that people could stall for 60 minutes. I think it's very impossible with the current meta. Like at least 45 maybe is like possible, but like 60 is like way too much. So, but
You
I
know,
still like the BO1s. It's
Now that
just
you've said that, we're going to have like a 65-minute game this weekend.
Please don't.
Who's Splice playing?
maybe. Oh, actually,
We're playing Splice this week, actually.
okay.
And we have to work on our late game macro, so you might expect that. You can expect a lot.
So, going into best of 5, where things start to change, generally you guys feel like no one's that scary in best of 1. Is there any team that like in best of 5 you think becomes a lot stronger, that is like a lot better team in best of 5 than they would be in best 1? Yeah, but you're not supposed to go first. Let them say it first.
Yeah, I think Origin.
I think
Okay, I just think, honestly, I think Origin's a really good team.
Yeah.
And so it's not even about facing them in a BO5. It's purely about facing them. No matter if it's BO5, BO1, BO5, BO3, whatever. It's
BO2.
still, they are still like a good team, you know? So it seems like they improved a lot throughout the split. And right now they play good macro. They play good early game. They don't give up leads easily. And I think this team would be my team to go to be in the final, you know? If I wouldn't choose G2 to be in the final, like let's say I'm just someone else, and then I would choose Origin as like at least one of the teams that would make it to the finals at least right now, you know?
choose both.
Or I can choose both as well, yeah. And then except for them, I don't think there's like a team that would benefit from BO5 more. Maybe Fnatic, maybe not. Because right now it seems like they're doing a lot in the early game to clinch their wins, because they would give up leads, but now they tend to get leads level 1, you know? They cheese a lot. And if they do cheese a lot every game in BO5, maybe they can get a lead. And I do also think they're improving quite heavily right now. But I don't know how strong would they be in actual BO5, you know? I mean, everyone always says that Fnatic has a playoff buff, so could be the case, could be not.
Their
We'll
plot
see.
armor is real strong. That's all I'll say. It is pretty hard to get rid of Fnatic.
I mean,
in
I
the
really
playoff
want to
race.
face them in the final. Like, honestly, if I could choose like a team I want to face in the final, it would be Fnatic.
Is this
because
just
that would
like
be really hype.
vengeance for
It'll be
Jankos?
kind of hype.
Yeah, for Spring Split last year.
I mean, how many times have you lost to Fnatic in best of 5s over your career?
Oh.
Well, I lost a lot of times to Fnatic overall. Like in BO5s, BO1s, just I always remember losing to Fnatic. One time we won in 2016. It was
Was it third place or Gauntlet where you guys won?
actually, you know what? I don't think we won. Okay.
Wait, no,
I
yeah, that was
remember-
3-2. Fnatic 3-2 to you.
Oh, it was Summer Split. We won in Summer Split against Fnatic. I think it was Summer Split, and thanks to that, we went to semifinals, and then we lost to Splice, and then we won against UL, and then we won to. we did
Mickey.
go to Worlds, you know. It was
Yeah.
like that roster. So I did win one BO5 against Fnatic, and I think that's it. But I probably lost way more than that.
Good old Forgiven coming through.
Yeah.
The greatest plot. I would love a G2 Fnatic finals, like at this point. 'Cause I'm
You
like,
really, like, I swear to God, we don't script it, but sometimes this stuff just happens.
Not every championship is created equal, and the fact that G2 have never had to go through an at-power Fnatic when taking a final is pretty crazy. So,
I mean, that would be really hype.
oh,
Really hype.
thanks for that
And-
viewership.
If Fnatic wins 3-2, I would like. Oh my god. Okay, we will.
Don't tell yourself before it happens. Like, clean
You can jinx
headspace
them.
here,
You can
Chris.
jinx them, so it's fine.
Yeah,
They're gonna
it's
win.
true. I mean, I would never assume that they would win against us. I just will not happen. But I know that people on Reddit and all the Fnatic fans would want it.
You're worried about the memes more than anything, is what you're worried
Yeah,
about.
probably, you know. Like there'll be like so much like stuff going on about like us and Fnatic if we would lose, you know. So we can't lose to them. There's just no way.
Brutal. Next up, I want to do a segment called Overhyped, Underrated. If you've been watching the podcast for a while, we used to do it all the time back when our episodes were 2 hours long. in the spirit of keeping them more digestible, we've cut it out of some episodes, but I do want to bring it back. And I asked everyone ahead of time to pick a player that they thought was overhyped or underrated. And as a heads up, dear audience, everyone has picked overhyped. So this is going to be a negative little time here on the EUphoria podcast. And I'll go first to kick it off, and then from there, anyone else can go in whatever order we see fit. I'm going to say Gorilla, Misfits support, super overhyped. Now, maybe I was wrong in assuming this, but when he came in, I was like, this guy's like supposed to be one of the great minds of League of Legends. You know, like when I think of like Korean supports, he's like obviously not Mata tier, Mata being one of the big ones, but he's like Mad Life tier for me, where he's like got some kind of legacy that is impressive, that I was excited about. Him and Prey were legendary. I thought he was going to come into this Misfits lineup with Hans Sama, and he was like, they were going to have like this, they could be like aggressive like Hans Sama, or really smart and tactical like Prey and Gorilla. I thought he was going to like, this whole roster was going to be like rebuilt in the image of like brilliant Korean macro. And you know, ever since that Tom Kench game, I've started to see, it's like the truth was pulled, like the veil was removed from my eyes after that time. And like that game was the start. But since then, it has been not great, pretty consistently. And if you look back, I start to see the holes more and more, where it's just like, Gorilla is not winning anything for his team. He's chilling, and he has some really great moments. Oftentimes set up by other people. He has had his moments, but definitely I thought this guy was going to be like a huge game changer. And now I feel like he's a middle of the pack support, which is not what I would ever expect from a team who's going to import a legacy name like Gorilla.
Well, to be honest, the Tom Kench game was against Blitzcrank, and I think that's pretty hard to play. But
True.
Overall, I agree. I mean, he used to be like my idol, kind of, when he was in Korea. And he was like the one I looked up to, and I was really hyped when I heard he was coming to EU, and then after we scrimmed them a bit, I was like, okay, he's good, but he's not as insane as I thought he was. And then after scrimming them, I mean, but I just thought maybe like didn't get used to his team yet and like stuff like that. But yeah, after scrimming them a bit more, he's like good, but it's not like something insane that I thought he would be.
Yeah, I don't really have opinion about Gorilla. I mean, I know he was really hyped, but I guess he's not that insane. And it could be maybe communication difficulties that comes with playing in a new team and not speaking like the same language, because I know that they have someone who translates for him. And except for it, could be, homesick, maybe he's just not used to environment yet, or maybe he is actually really used to environment, but like he kind of misses Korea. Could be a lot of things, Because for me, for example, Wadid was playing pretty well in G2, but I think this year he was been really underwhelming in Rogue. So, I know Wadid could get homesick during his stay in G2. So maybe it could be similar to Gorilla and overall the Koreans that come here to play. But I don't really care about that. My overrated player
Here we go.
is Beepo. I actually think, so they did go to World Finals with Fnatic. And back, like during Worlds, Beepo was like getting hyped as the best Western player. The best top laner, like the best Western top laner of of Worlds, like better than Licorice, better than Wunder, better than Soas, like whoever. But for me, like how I see him is that he really needs a lot of jungle attention, because when he plays a matchup that doesn't win and doesn't get jungle attention, we saw him losing a lot of matchups this year. Like, I think Beepo has been performing really like bad, or at least not good, if I wouldn't say bad. And if he had either a bad matchup or jungle, Broxa wouldn't help him. He would never win his lane. He would always go behind in CS. And right now, he's performing well. Like the last 3 or 4 Fnatic games they had, he has been performing really well. But that's also because they went back to style where they go 3-man top, level 3, or 3-man top, level 5, or 3-man top, level 7, and they always give a lead to Beepo. And I do agree that when Beepo has a lead, he knows how to snowball it, he knows how to play with lead, he knows how to move it around the map. But I think a player has more to it than just playing from ahead, just playing when being ahead. And I think Beepo doesn't play well when he's like 5-5 or from behind.
Yeah, for me, I will say that I've noticed that he doesn't lose super gracefully, which I always think can be a really big strength of a top laner. When you're picked into a losing matchup or the enemy team has more jungle pressure, you can like When Bwipo loses lane, you definitely notice there's a lot of discrepancies. And there's an interview a while back where he was talking about, like, it doesn't really matter if you make me go 20, 30 CS down in lane. Like, I will still contribute value to the team. And, like, if that means my team is getting something else on the map, then that's okay. But my concern is that, like, is it ever, like, how much of a lead is too much of a lead? Or how much of a deficit is too big of a deficit where you're just like, that should never happen? It doesn't matter how atrocious this matchup is in the top lane. Like, is it like 30 CS? Is it like 40 CS? Is there like a threshold where you're like, I don't care if you've got, I can't even think of a bad matchup. Give me a bad matchup in top lane.
I disagree, so I can't.
Yeah, I think it's really matchup dependent, but
And I think Bwipo has actually taken like, oh, I almost said something inappropriate, has taken the raw end of a lot of matchups recently to go CS down. I think that I would agree with Jankos' point back in like World Finals, because you shouldn't fall, he was like 0-6 in that final at some point, and that should not happen. But I think recently Fnatic's problems have been more tuned to like, and I'm not putting this on Broxa, but this could be team comms, but like, no one was getting anything on the other side of the map, so if Bwipo does fall down like 30, 40 CS and nothing else happens, then it's really easy to look at Bwipo and be like, WTF happened here. But I don't think it's supposed to play out like that, because he was playing a lot of tank matchups and just like getting destroyed.
Well, I
up top
remember
lane.
them picking Ornn against us when we had Jace. So
That was not a great example.
yeah,
I'll give you that one.
I think dying against was Urgot against Sion. I mean, he was playing Sion against Urgot against
Yeah.
Soros. I'm not sure if you're supposed to die when you won in that matchup, but
I mean, I know this matchup is for sure better for Urgot, especially back then, because, well, Urgot is just, he can just kill you at level 6, but for sure this is like a matchup to go. In NA, for example, they always would pick that, but NA is a bit different. And in EU, it would be always considered that you can just pick Sion and you can maybe go 10 CS or 15 CS behind, but you are fine on lane. You will not die, you will just farm and you will scale. You will be a tank. But Bwipo was just dying.
That's fair.
Yeah, and to be fair, Soas had a really clean play there. I think he got level 6 off minion dematerializer and then like instantly went for the snap
Yeah,
all in.
I mean, SARS was playing really well, it's true. Like, back then, Misfits were not performing, like, I think back then still they didn't perform as insane, but like, SARS
They're
really
fine.
like played well at the game. But
And
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I don't hate Beep or anything, just I think he is not as good as people made him out to be.
Well, I'm excited. Who wants to go next?
I think this is one of those things where we've picked all three players of like high expectations, because I'm about to reveal my player. Like, you picked Gorilla and he was supposed to be like this legacy top laner or legacy support. You picked Bwipo and he was like so many
World
LEC fans.
finalist.
Yeah, we're like, he's the greatest top laner to ever play in Europe, as literally Soaz is sitting on the bench behind him. It's just like someone who was there. And I'm actually going to go Ignar, and I think this is probably the most controversial, I'd say, out of the players, because Ignar had like a really strong start, but I think why I feel like he's really overhyped right now is that it almost feels like Ignar has lost a lot of his confidence. So we had those crazy Blitzcrank games that really put Gorilla in perspective for you. And you had like Ignar playing like the Thresh. He was having Thresh banned against him. He was playing the Blitzcrank. It looked like, yes, this guy's going to step up. He's going to make the plays. And now he's just on Tom Kench duty. And nothing against Tom Kench, but I almost feel like I watch Gorilla and Ignar play, and I'm like, how much are they still talking to their LCK counterparts? Because in LCK, Tom Kench is like the big deal, and they pick that champion every time. And in LEC, I just hate it. I'm like, just don't do it. There's like too much a disparity between so many of our players on so many of our teams. Just go for the big play. Grab the, excuse me. Just go
Fiddlesticks.
go for the fiddlesticks play. And be the playmaker. And so for Ignar to come in alongside Upset, and I gave him like, I think this is the best bot lane in the LEC, and all of the bot lanes improved. And now to see Ignar get constantly, there was that Shin game where he was constantly caught out of position. It just happened most recently this weekend where, again, like Ignar's somewhere where he shouldn't be. And that doesn't necessarily always fall on him. His team could be telling him to do something, but Ignar does not look in step with Schalke. And I think one of the reasons why they are falling down is if someone's going to take responsibility, it should be Memento or Abadage, because that's the nature of their roles. But I think when Memento and Ignar were doing it, that's when Schalke were successful. And now that they've stopped, I think you have to put a magnifying glass on Ignar.
Mickey, as a fellow support player, fellow playmaking support player, thoughts on?
well, yeah, I also think both him and Upset were the strongest at the start, but ever since then, I think the Fnatic game that they played Thresh, Kai'Sa did that sick play
Oh,
on
that
the
was
spell shield.
so
so
gross
good.
on the spell shield.
After that, they got really, really overhyped, I think. Because ever since that game, they were like, oh, these guys are so insane. But
That's all it
whenever-
takes is one play, man.
Yeah, but whenever we played them, they were really underwhelming, at least compared to scrims. I think in scrims, they were still performing well. But on stage when they played against us, they didn't really do much. They were just there, kind of.
Just drink out of the carafe, Froskurinn.
You think that's
there's
your
some more.
carafe?
just to be clear here, I was given a separate water bottle, so this entire carafe could be
That's
for
yours?
Froskurinn. Have you been drinking out of this too?
I spill.
All right. Anyway, I mean, it makes me sad because I actually was really excited about Ignar coming back, and I think that obviously the moments like the Kai'Sa Thresh play are insane, and those are the moments that I wanted, and so he's kind of delivered in that capacity. But I do feel that, yeah, Schalke as a whole is just collapsing so quickly. Mickey, who's your player, buddy?
Mickey's
Well,
got a good one.
So for my player that is overrated, I picked Attila. I'm not sure if he's actually overrated by the community, but he's definitely overrated by himself.
I love it. I
Because-
absolutely. Yeah.
I think for how good he is in general, he really talks too much about how good he is himself. I think my best example would be the first game against Splice when he played Vayne against Sivir Braum, and he died twice in lane to a Braum Sivir as Vayne, which is not possible, I think. And then he somehow got 3 items, and then in the last team fight he got Zac ulted into Sivir and killed him in 3 shots, and I said, "Oh, I'm so damn
Fiddlesticks good."
Fiddlesticks good at this game." And I was like, "What are you saying?" That was what? And then ever since then, even when he played against Upset recently, when he beat them, I don't think he was that insane. I think Schalke just as a team was really bad. I don't think he did anything special, except the last fight he ulted into them and flashed on them, and he was really fed. So, but yeah, I think even when we played against them, he didn't really do much. They played Lucian Braum against Ezreal Thresh and lost both of their flashes level 2. So I don't think that's supposed to happen.
That's definitely not supposed to happen.
But then then the lantern bug happened again to us and we died to the jungler. But yeah, that's why I think he's a bit overhyped.
I'll say, because I don't know. I have mixed feelings on Attila, because some games to me he looks really good, and some games he looks like he's trolling. I will agree completely on the Splice game in the sense that entire team fight, if you watch it back, is literally just how can we set, Splice are how can we set Vayne up to look good? First, let's throw 2 tanks into her who do no damage with her build that is literally designed to destroy tanks. He had Gwynsu's and he had
Blade.
Rage Blade, and then he had whatever his third item is. At that point, no one cares what the third item is.
Kingdom's Edge is the same item. But yeah.
Huh?
Never mind.
Basically, he destroys them, is then fighting the Sivir, and the Sivir is winning the exchange, and then gets the Zac ult comes in to bring him into the Sivir just so he can finish it off, and it's like you're walking forward with the sword and people are just falling into it. You know what I mean? You are not swinging it, you are not doing. People are just walking into it. You're like, oh, okay, there's another one. Just line up. We'll just make a shish kebab Splice. That play, as an example of good play, was not there. Overall, he recovered well in that game, but that one play does always tilt me when people bring it up as this giant highlight reel. Had good moments. I liked the Schalke play from the Kai'Sa. Even if he was mega fed at that point, I still thought that was hype. But
Yeah.
But I agree the Splice play was.
I think it's fair to say that if you swapped Attila for a different ADC on Vitality, they would probably still be where they are in terms of results. I like Attila's bravado. I think his playstyle, I personally find it fun because I like people that just go in to just murder people. But Attila and Jack Troll, for me, have not been fundamental reasons why Vitality are where they are. It's been Kaboshard and Jizuke and Mowgli.
Yeah, I agree.
Pretty accurate, I would say. I mean, I think maybe also Attila gets hyped a lot. That's how I feel, and maybe that's why in the game against Schalke, you could say he kind of popped off, or he played good because he was really hyped to beat Upset, because they had this rivalry between themselves, and I'm sure he did watch the hype video where Upset called him some names, So I think when he's playing from behind or when he can get hyped up in game, he is not playing that well. And I do agree that he rates himself a bit higher than he should be rating himself.
Can I do one underrated player really fast?
Yeah, you can do one underrated player.
So I would put underrated as G2 Perks. I think everyone is kind of flaming him because for example, the last Kai'Sa game or something like that, or that he can play AD carries or crit AD carries, which I strongly disagree with. I think he plays AD carries better than most LEC players. And considering that he only played AD for, I don't know, 2 months or something, 3 months maybe, I think it's pretty crazy that I would already put him as number 1, because I think he picks up so many champs and he can play so many more champs than all other LEC AD carries. So I think he has an advantage in that. And he can also play standard AD carries, which we might or might not have shown yet. But yeah, so there was a Silver game and the Kai'Sa game that we lost, and he was both playing Creed AD, so that's why people have like a bad opinion on it. But I think both of these games wasn't really his fault. So yeah, and I think all other LEC AD carries can't really play. I mean, actually, I think a lot of LEC AD carries just like don't auto-attack, and he auto-attacks a lot, which I like. He like plays to his limits, and that wins you games instead of people just like standing still and like some farming, and then if enemy comes in on a screen, then he attacks him a few times. Well, not just steal back, but yeah.
Yeah, I think Perks is
But yeah,
good.
that's my point.
I don't know if we are in position to like.
He's a support now.
I don't know if we are in position to hype up Perks because we are in the same team, you know.
He's
But
underrated.
I would agree with Mickey.
I mean, like, look. Obviously, people should take it with a grain of salt because it's coming from you guys, and you might be.
No bias
I hate
at
to
all.
break it to you, a little biased.
No bias.
No bias at all. You get to see
Completely
every
objective.
scrim game where he pops off, and that's going to build a lot more confidence than anything else. But I like that you're standing up for your teammate. I think people are just looking for a weakness on G2. I mean, I'm looking for a weakness on G2, other than you randomly throw games sometimes and get smashed in draft that one game.
Our macro knowledge is our weakness. And our draft sometimes.
The draft one, I mean, to be fair, there's at least a sample size for the draft one. All right, so there's some flame and a little bit of G2 positivity to end it out. I was really hoping you weren't going to pick a G2 player to praise, just so we'd get a little bit more praise for somewhere else.
Yeah, I was like really curious who would you talk about, and then you said G2 Perks. I'm like, God damn it.
You had one job.
The last thing, now, the final section of this show is Twitter questions, and it's all about anime. So if you're not a weeb, I'm sorry. This is not a segment for you, but in respect to you, we will do our bet now, so that if you decide you do not want to participate in this section, you don't have to. You should, because anime is really great, but fiddlesticks and good, some would say.
Well, bye-bye, Wunder.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We can talk about that. That's going to be in the questions. But first off, we have a bet now. The stakes are winning the split for G2. Froskurinn has already got one bet going in favor of G2. She will now have a second bet going against them, as is the nature of being a EUphoria podcast host. You don't get to make your own decisions. The bet demands a decision. Froskurinn, you're now betting against G2. It's G2 versus everyone. G2 win the split. Mm-hmm. This is once again, we've agreed on these stakes prior, so I'm just going to run it out for you guys. If G2 win the split, Froskurinn and I will be wearing cosplay to the G2 fan meeting to support their victory. Actually, I think the Catcher fan meeting is right next to it, so we won't spoil yours, but we will be wearing KDA cosplay. Now, the thing is we're not going to get 4 cosplays, because in the event that G2 loses, they're also going to cosplay. After losing the finals, they will go to their fan meet in KDA cosplay. And I'm not talking about gender-bent KDA cosplay. I'm talking we're going to do our best sneaky impression for these boys and for myself. And because, we're a small indie games company, also cosplays are really hard to make and take a lot of time. We're going to share. So if me and my boy Jankos over here, we're going to be Evelyn. So if Jankos loses, he'll be Evelyn. If Jankos wins, I'll be Evelyn. And Froskurinn and Mickey are going to be Akali.
That sounds really spicy.
It's going to be good. I think, do you want to add the dance too? We talked about the dance.
Yeah,
I'm
do
down.
the dance.
So I'm really bad at dancing.
So we're doing it.
Like really bad.
That's
Like
fine.
I honestly
You have to do
can't.
a dance in your cosplay. Let's say 15-second like Instagram story. Just share it with the world.
Oh,
just
well, I really
gotta-
want to.
you gotta
Okay.
do like one of
And announce that
these.
you lost the bet.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I will do it if we do bet on it. I hope I don't lose finals though. So all I
I mean,
have
it'd be
to do
good
is
to
just
see you
win
win a
finals.
final. I'd be excited for you, but no bias. So I'd also really love to see you dressed up as Evelyn. So really, either way, I win.
Yeah,
just
I
from an
mean,
outside
sure, let's
perspective.
go
I get
for
to see
the
the
dance as
smile on
well.
your face, or I get to see you really sad dancing as Evelyn. God, that's so messed up. This is why the stakes are good. It's like, while it does not look likely that we'll win, on the off chance that we do, this is...
I just want to make it clear. If I win this bet, I don't have to get a tattoo. but I
do have to dress up like a collie.
And if I
you
lose
this bet,
I don't get to dress up like a collie, and
No,
I
you
do have to
don't.
get a tattoo.
you don't win. There's no way you win. That's the game here.
I can't lose either.
Ours has midriff. I hope you're ready for the gym.
Yeah, you have an advantage, Froskurinn, I will say.
What's my advantage?
I know you're a
that I
female
naturally
cosplaying a female character. I just feel like that gives you a natural edge. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's not okay to say.
You haven't seen my happy trail yet.
Oh my god,
There's a
no,
lot of
God, no, stop. Anime. I asked you guys for anime questions. Many of you took to Twitter. Many of you gave me really intense anime questions. I'm going to go for some of the softer
Oh,
ones.
don't read Andy Day.
I won't read Andy. I don't need to know. Like, we're not going to go, is who Sundir, whatever,
My
Oni-chan. Like, no. Like, we'll get an Oni-chan one in there because that's obviously very key to Jankos. But, like, to those of you who are hardcore, I respect you immensely. But I do want to keep this for, like, the surface level weebs because I consider myself a surface level weeb. I am a sword art weeb, not a I really like the animation of this director or this type of character kind of weeb. So
But I'm like kind of hidden whip.
I know you're not
Like,
hidden.
okay.
We're
so-
exposing you right now.
Okay, you exposed me, and I exposed myself before, but you would not guess I watch anime if I wouldn't tell you.
That's true.
And
I wouldn't have guessed it for Mickey
also,
either.
I'm not like.
Wait,
Except for
look
the
at his shirt.
I mean, yeah, but he. That's a Bakugo shirt. Let's just appreciate that.
That's right.
Favorite anime. I'll find someone who asked the question. So let's just start with the baseline. Jankos, favorite anime and why? Emil. I'm just gonna say Emil. You have 4 names on your Twitter name at GJessingS.
Well, Mickey, can you start?
Wait, yeah, sure. I
Favorite
can
anime
start.
and why? Mickey, you can start.
So I have a bunch of
I
them.
know his.
Yeah, you just pick
Okay,
one.
you don't have
Pick
a
one
bunch.
to start.
I know your anime.
Pick one.
I will tell everyone if you don't.
Okay, so my number one is probably Code Geass, The Lucia of the Rebellion. You might have seen it. Have
Yeah.
you?
Would that have been your answer? Did you actually know his favorite anime?
Yes, because
Look at
he
that
really
synergy.
talks about it like every time.
Oh, and
in
you haven't
gaming
seen it
house.
yet,
Like
have
every
you?
time we talk about like anime, because I didn't watch Code Geass, and every time
Stop.
I ask for like anime to watch, or we are talking about anything, or like Luca is kind of turning whip with caps as well. So every time they are looking for something to watch, then he's always talking about Code Geass. And even Wunder, who hates anime,
Knows it.
knows that his favorite anime is Code Geass. That's how much he loves it.
Okay. I mean, it's not that much, but yeah, it's the best one because I think the plot is really insane, and I like all the mind games kind of thing. It's like Death Note, but better, I
Yeah.
think. And it's the first anime that made me very emotional after I watched it. A specific scene, so that's why, yeah, it kind of stayed as my favorite.
I feel you, dude. I feel like anime gets me real emotional. I'm not gonna lie. Froskurinn, you're left out. So before we go to Jankos, do you have any? I mean, I know you have a ton of animation experience. Like, actually went to school for animation. Do you have any anime background outside of you did say Sword Art Online was trash to us behind the stage?
I did, actually. And I stand by
It's
that.
kind of trash. It's really fun and I love it, but it is kind of trash.
I mean, I watched anime when I was like a kid. I watched the Gundam Seed and Outlaw Star and Tenchi Muyo, and
Oh yeah, classics.
I think the most recent one I watched is Darker Than Black and
Sounds
Attack on Titan. Darker Than Black
Dark
was
and
good.
Black was great. I loved
Then
it.
what?
And Full Metal Alchemist.
Ooh, Full Metal Alchemist. Did you watch Brotherhood or the other one?
I haven't seen Brotherhood, but I did read the manga.
Oh, well, there we go, folks. I did not think we were. That's good, Frosco. You read the manga. That's like the Trump. You're like, yeah, but the manga was
Yeah.
better. And I'm like, I can't beat that. It's like, you're like a level 3 weeb. Like, I go toe to toe with that. Jankos, what's your favorite?
Okay, so I was thinking about it, and I wanted to say Death Note or Fate Stay Night series, but I think I'll go with Dragon Ball because that's
Ooh,
how
okay.
I was.
Dragon Ball Z.
I mean, I could say Dragon Ball Z, I guess, but I still watch the series, so I would just say overall Dragon Ball because how I started to watch anime is actually Dragon Ball. It was on TV, and it was in French. I think, like it was okay. So they would talk in French, but it was with Polish dubbing, so you could hear French and like in the background, and then you could hear Polish because that's how like it was transmitted in Poland. You know, it was kind of weird, but I was watching it every time before kindergarten, and well, it just stayed that way. And then I watched it through my childhood, And then Naruto came in. I also watched Naruto from my childhood.
It's okay, let it out.
Just tell the
Yeah,
truth.
so, but yeah, still Dragon Ball. I just like it, and you know, I know I just like it. That's why I like anime that's more about fighting as well, because in Dragon Ball there's like a lot of flashy scenes, and you know Vegeta never gives up, and he's chasing like the dream, and he's always weaker than Goku because Goku is very talented and he doesn't need to practice as much, but Vegeta is trying very hard.
All right,
I love Vegeta and stuff. Yeah.
And there's so many questions here. Everyone at home, thank you so much for submitting these. But just to follow up there, Dragon Ball Z, if you had to establish characters for your team, and we'll try to do this quickly.
Who
so we
gets
can
to
get
be
more questions.
Goku?
Who's Goku? Who's Vegeta?
Who's Gohan? Krillin?
Who's Krillin?
Someone has to be
Someone
Krillin.
has to be Krillin. And that's
Okay, Grabs is Krillin. Can I put Grabs as Krillin? Can I do it?
no one wants to be Krillin.
Okay. Grabs is Krillin because he's like our weakest. No, I'm just kidding.
Bro, my biggest thing is I think Caps is obviously Goku.
No, Gohan's the more powerful one. Caps has to be
No.
Gohan.
You stopped watching episode. They gave up on that. They tried to make Gohan the main character, and then people didn't like Gohan, so Goku became more powerful again. I know. I'm sorry. It happened. Everyone thought Gohan was gonna happen. It didn't happen. No one likes Gohan.
Yeah, I mean, if you would like put it this way, then I guess you would put Caps as Goku because he's
Perks is
just really good.
Vegeta.
So
Oh,
that
he is
would put Perks as Vegeta because they did have rivalry between themselves, and now they joined forces.
Are you Piccolo? You mentored?
Well, no, because he's really useless, and I don't want to be useless. So I would put Krillin as Grabs.
Who gets to be Bulma?
Bulma.
Yeah.
Bulma.
Bulma. Bulma? This shows how much I know.
Oh no, okay. So let's like try to do it like the useful people because Bulma is not really that useful. Okay. Bulma is Mickey because Bulma is. If Perks is like Vegeta, then like you are Bulma because you are his wife because you are like his support, you know. So
See?
it makes sense that you support him.
Jankos gets it. Thank you.
I wanted to be like Jiren or something.
I mean, everyone wants to be Jiren,
guy's
but don't
really
go. Are you gonna go into super like that?
Jiren is like the shy, you know. He's just waiting there.
Okay.
or Rookie, I don't know. And I would be probably some like, I know Piccolo or Gohan or. Yeah, I mean, all of them are useless, so who'd I choose, you know? I would be just some useless guy, like, running around and, like, being weak.
I don't know.
And then maybe... And Wunder is... I really don't know who is Wunder. Let's say Wunder
Frieza.
is...
He's the
Okay,
villain.
yeah, Wunder is, like, the villain. Because
Kinda
he doesn't,
stoic.
like, whip stuff, so...
You could be Majin Buu after the Buu saga, when
He's
Majin Buu's
actually
an
Majin
ally.
Buu. You're actually Majin Buu.
Okay,
Yeah.
I take it.
Lock in Zach, pink skin next game.
Yeah.
No, don't
Oh,
say
my
that.
team does like that. My team does
So
like that.
borderline copyright infringement. Don't say that.
I like Sailor Moon. What are the Sailor Moon questions?
Ooh, Sailor Moon questions.
You can be Neptune, I'll be Uranus. They can
Uranus.
I didn't watch it.
be Uranus.
Okay, wait, hold on. Okay, at Rio Anime at Kawaii Rio. So wants to ask, there's two-part question. Do you enjoy romance anime, and if so, which ones? I'm going to let you, if you want to answer that, you can. But more importantly, have you ever cried over an anime, and if so, which one?
In
Okay,
what
I did
moment?
not cry over anime ever in my life, but I also did not cry over a movie or over a lot of stuff in my life. I just don't.
Do you cry at real stuff? Like, do you ever, are you a guy who cries ever, out of curiosity?
Because of emotions?
Yeah, because of emotions.
No.
Like, are you, no, really?
I'm not like that emotional.
You're heartless.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm like.
That's fine, because like I don't cry at real life stuff. Like someone can be having a traumatic event, I'm like, wow, that's really tough. But like a character in anime dies, and I'm like, oh god, oh, their life was so short. Creation of some Japanese man.
Okay, so should I get started then?
Yep.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, is it a list? Let's get.
Yeah.
I
so
did. Yeah.
for romance stuff, so that has like counts as slice of life kinda. I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, slice of
So
life.
Clownat, George
Okay.
Clownat.
No.
So that was one of them that I cried. a
Is
lot.
slice of life like a genre?
Yeah, it's just
Kinda,
like
yeah.
it's just like about life. It's just
Yeah.
like
So
people
that's like
chilling.
Fruit Basket?
Not sure, I didn't watch it.
I don't remember Fruit Basket. I've seen the cover for Fruit Basket though, and I assume Fruit Basket is in that genre.
Okay.
So yeah, for romance, I would probably put Clownat. And yes, I did cry multiple times. It was one specific scene in the second season, After Story, that even if I rewatched the scene after that 5 times, I always cried. It was really, really sad. And then what else was there? There was Violet Evergarden, and there was like, it's 12 episodes anime, And episode 6, 7, 8, 9, it was all really sad, so I can't recall them. I watched it last year in Misfits, and I was like just sitting at my PC and like looking around, like, no one should know I was watching.
But that's also because in Misfits you were losing, so you play like
Yeah.
it was a lot of emotions. You know. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
my team.
And then Code Geass, I already mentioned. Code Geass had some emotional moments as well.
You don't have to list them all. I'll be honest. It's good to know.
no,
There's a lot
let
of
him
them.
get it
Let him go.
out.
Okay.
Yes.
Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Yeah. Okay. I
During-
cried on that one too.
Okay, you know which scene I'm talking about? I
Oh
assume.
God, yeah. Oh, there's a couple, but yeah.
Okay, so the one where it's starting to rain.
Oh yeah, definitely.
that one.
Oh my God,
And then
it's an
yeah,
iconic scene.
I think that's where it ends.
That
I
scene
hope.
might be an original
Oh,
too.
One Piece, also One Piece.
I never gotten to One
Okay.
Piece. Can't say. I've cried at Naruto. I have cried definitely at My Hero Academia every time. Like, let me just tell you, like, inspirational figures who believe in people. I'm like, I can't. And that
Actually-
entire show is just one dude cheering on another dude. So there's so many emotional moments.
But that's like the whole thing about anime, right? I mean, a lot of them are like about like inspirational and not giving up. So I guess you cry a lot during anime.
I cry a lot. I cry at cartoons constantly, if I'm honest. It's like how I let my emotions out. Real world, never cry. No room for emotion. Anime, oh my God, it's so sad. It's like so sad.
It's okay. It's okay to cry.
No, I
it's
don't have
okay
any problem.
not
Like,
to cry.
I'm not remotely ashamed about the fact that I cry at anime all the time.
Yeah. Same.
Froskurinn,
Yeah,
have you ever cried at anime?
at an anime.
Or it can also just be animation.
Oh, I've cried at tons of animation. I cry when I stub my toe. I cry when I walk into the office and I see you look sad.
I was watching anime that day. All right, I'm gonna get one more question and then we'll call it a day. I want to get.
say something. Okay, there's like this one movie, because the question was also if like you like romance anime or
Yep.
something like that. So there was this one movie.
So then-
I don't remember like the name actually, but it was kind of popular and it came out in 2014 or 16. It was like an anime movie. It was like
Your
about
Name?
yeah, I think so. Yeah, it was Your Name. I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with that, but
A lot of
it
people
was
are familiar.
it's pretty good one. And I didn't cry, you know, but I think
thanks.
it was kind of about romance, or maybe
Yeah, it
kind of
was.
it was not.
Yeah.
So I kind of liked it, I guess. But I don't watch a lot of romance anime, yeah. And I didn't really cry, but it was sad.
I cried at the end of Darker Than Black.
Oh, it's also God.
Actually, I think Dark and Black, like, first season was really good, and then it started, like...
There's a second
I don't know
season?
what was happening. Yeah, there's...
Yeah.
Okay, don't watch it. Just the first season, it's fine. Because then I don't know what...
It's a bit of a struggle. Last question. Daniel at Daniel Storson.
Daniel at Daniel Drakos.
At Daniel Drakos, yeah, at Daniel Storson. Any recommendations? I like this ending. So if you're watching this and you're like, I have no idea what they're talking about, and you're still here, one, shout outs to you. Love you. Any recommendations for anime? Let's just say, like, if you could
Yes.
recommend one thing, it can be newer, it can be older, for people to watch and get into. What would it be? Jankos, you can go first.
I mean, I guess most, like, if people didn't watch anime and I would probably, like, tell someone to try something, I would probably choose either Death Note or maybe Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, because they are not so short, but not so long. They're like 50 episodes each, and they kind of have a cool story behind them, you know? So you could feel like you're watching a series, but just animated.
So, they have an anime list, so I would recommend all the things that I rated as a 10. So that would be Code Geass, Fullmetal Alchemist, Clannad, Violet Evergarden, One Piece, Fate Zero, and Steins Gate. Okay.
A lot of classics there.
And so that would be probably for people that haven't watched anime, probably Death Note as well. And then for people that do watch, then maybe some of the lesser known ones, like Dark and Black is not that known, so I guess that one would be one I would recommend. Yeah, pretty much it. But Code Geass is the best. Watch that.
Do you have any recommendations for Oscar?
Back in my day, I liked My Hime, Sailor Moon, but you can't watch that in English. That's a completely different story. And Outlaw Star.
All right. You guys listed a lot of really cool animes. If you want to get into newer stuff, I really like Grimgar. I forget the full name. I'm just calling it Grimgar. But it's another one of those like MMO animes, but it's much more real and much more brutal and much less Kirito conquers everything. Oh, Kirito, how did you secondly happen to find a sword at the exact right moment that you needed one? And a lot more, oh, I guess that character's dead too now. So it's intense. It's good. It's only one season, which makes me sad, but it's very good. That's how I got Ender into anime. Was actually that show. And if you're not new to anime and you kind of want to get into it, Cowboy Bebop is one that people reference a lot, but I actually think Samurai Champloo's better. Fantastic soundtrack, feudal Japan era samurais, kind of some hip hop vibes there. Really insane hip hop producer does the soundtrack, so really good. All right, guys.
Yeah.
You're supposed to close the show, I think.
know, which is awkward. I should have gone first in hindsight because now I'm close. This has been season 3, episode 8, featuring Mickey and Jankos. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for talking about anime. At some point, we will do a full anime podcast. I just couldn't subject our listener base to an entire hour of anime, but we'll get there. We need to know.
I'm pretty sure there's a crossover in the demographic.
There is enough characters in both the One Piece and Naruto universes that we can classify every LEC player as an individual Naruto or One Piece character.
Can I say that my favorite anime is the LEC?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
That's good.
But then that means Fnatic would.
Oh no! No! You guys are Bakugo! No!
Yeah, the music is playing enough for Fnatic. They have the comeback story.
I forgot Zoids! Zoids is a fiddlesticks great anime.
Zoids is awful. All right, Zoids is actually garbage.
I don't know what that is.
But that's going to do it for us here. Thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you next week, and yeah, later.